Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Rocky Mountain House Regular Council meeting. Today is November 21st, 2023. Mayor Bage is absent today, so as Deputy Mayor, I will be chairing the meeting for this afternoon. And so I will call the meeting to order. So 2.1, adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda today? Councillor Schipel.
I will so move the agenda as presented.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, so all those in favor? And none against, that is carried. And so delegations. So today we have a delegation from Mr. Doug Lott on behalf of the Rocky and District Minor Football Association. Feel free to come on up.
Deputy Mayor, do I say deputy or deputy worship? I'm not sure what the correct term is.
I think just Deputy Mayor is good.
Deputy Mayor. Next, I have Serena Taylor with us. She's one of our board members.
You can turn it towards me.
Check, check. Mic check, check. I have Serena Taylor with us. She's one of our board members. They always say it's good to start these things with a joke. So I was, kicking around the house last night, and I was really trying hard to get my wife's attention to help me with this, and I just couldn't get it. So finally I sat down on the couch and got comfortable, and that did it. We are here just for an update and I guess a funding ask for the lighting project. So I do apologize I didn't get the info out to you guys sooner. As far as the handout goes, my apologies on that. Just a little background, the project grew out of the Masters Games. The lighting project was a CFIP grant application to run in conjunction to light the rectangular field, Curtis Field, for the Masters Games. We actually had to apply 3 cycles before we got the funding grant granted. So it went through 3 cycles. Initially, Roger Smolnicki was in Wes's position at the time. Lisa Chur, who I can't say enough good things about, was instrumental in helping to write the grant and helping us get it. She is a shining light at the town, in my opinion, that girl. I like her. Brad Turner and myself. Brad's still involved, as am I. With it, we now have Wes, obviously from the town, Mike Lundstrom from the school division, Brad, and then Ray Lanchberry, who's a local electrician type guy to help us, as a lot of this project is electrical and stuff. So he's come on sort of through Brad to help us with that. Our initial budget was $275,000 for the lights. 125 coming from the CFIP grant, 62.5 from each of the town and the county because it was a matching grant, and then 25,000 was the football team's sort of skin in the game as well. So we applied 3 times, got turned down twice. Fast forward to early 2022, we did have a successful grant application. For some reason, CFIP, who I never really could get an answer from, didn't give 125, they gave $112,861, and how they came up with that amount, I'm not sure. But at that point in time, I wasn't going to argue with money in hand. So we cashed the check and said, thank you very much. And then obviously both the town and the county fully funded their 62.5, and as a legacy from the Masters Games, the Masters Games gifted the football team our $25,000, which was one of the reasons why we got turned down the first time. Roger was sort of, we didn't have the 25,000 as the football team, so he was just sort of, stealing from Peter to pay Paul to give us skin in the game sort of through the application process and once the grant was out there. But one of the reasons we failed was we didn't have a bank account that said, here, we have $25,000 as the team, when we were sort of saying we did. So Masters Games helped us rectify that situation, which I was involved with Masters Games and well, it was a great success for the town. Worked with Len and Tina, and I think Dave, you were involved too to a certain extent, so that was great. So anyways, here we are now. We've been working on this project for a couple years. It is a bit cumbersome when you're dealing sort of with 2 different levels of government. When we're dealing sort of with the town on some part and the school division on the land, it gets a bit murky down there at Curtis Field because the town manages the land, but the school division owns it. We did let the school division and the high school know every time we reapplied for the grant, but I'm not sure if communication necessarily went to the right person, because when I informed Mike Lundstrom we had successfully got the grant, he went, "What grant?" So there was some hurdles to overcome with the school division as well. Mike's been great to deal with. I don't have any complaints. It just, things always don't move fast, and when you've got a small building window to put these things up in, sometimes it takes time for that stuff to happen. We have seen some significant cost increases since then. I have detailed them. There is a copy of the budget that sort of shows our initial budget, and then where we are currently with stuff. So the basic gist of it is we had the polls with the price of steel and commodity prices, you know, from the time the initial budget went into CFIP, until here we are now is $53,000 increase in price just in the steel alone for the poles. The poles are 80 feet high. So, you know, it's a significant amount of steel down there. One of the unexpected things that we had come in was the foundation. We had only budgeted, you know, a very small, not a very small amount, but what we thought was the right amount for them at the time. And then once we got the engineered drawings from the pole people as to what we were gonna need for the foundation, which they wouldn't release to us until we bought and paid for the poles, then we realized we got like $100,000 worth of foundations to put into these things. And I have attached the drawings for the foundation so you can sort of see what challenge we're up against there. We did get quotes, PMCL, Pascal, what's their pickles out of Red Deer, they were $110,000 with no budget. We did talk to Moberg here locally. He was about $58,000, again, no installation on that. And then K-Wright, who I believe is working with the town, they're one of the town's sort of preferred vendors. They're the guys doing the spray park, if I'm correct, right, Wes? Yes. They came in about $95,000, but that includes some project management and installation. And that we also had some foundation engineering, which cost us, you know, close to $6,000 we weren't expecting. And then the CFIP grant came in $12,000 underfunded. So what are we doing, you know, as minor football and the group that's working on it? We have talked to Merv Paderny. He's going to give us the concrete at 50% off. We are approaching some of the gravel providers like Shane Myers to see if we can get some donation in kind stuff that way. The crane company, Downton's, we've got some connections there to see if they'll help us. Like they donated the crane to put the C-can, for instance, in that we had installed this year down there for storage. So we feel there's some stuff we can do there. We did get the directional drilling company for the cabling for it to come in at half the cost of what we had other quotes come in for, because the guy is a big believer in youth sports and football in particular. So, you know, we have seen some cost there, savings, but I can't put a number on it necessarily yet. Which is why, you know, we're asking for the town to, well, we're $116,000 over budget on this thing, and we're hopeful that the town and the county can split that 50-50. I'd love to come back to you and say, hey, we didn't use all the $58,000. We've got $10,000 to give back to you. I don't want to come back next September and say we're still $20,000 short and we need more money. So that's basically the gist of where we're at. We are $116,000 over budget due to the biggest one being the foundation cost. We had no idea that we were expecting, and then the price of steel. On the budget sheet, any of the stuff in the right-hand column that is bold, we've paid for. We had to pay for the poles, to get the engineered drawings to get the foundations for it, and we didn't want to risk the price of steel going up even more. So checks have been cut for that. Checks have been cut for the lights. We had to get those paid as well. They're on the ground here. Ready to get installed as well. The foundation thing's really the thing that screwed us up. If we were only $16,000 over budget, we could fundraise or do something for that internally within the group. But, you know, $116,000 when we're a football association that plays with about $30,000 in total to run our program every year, that's just something that's beyond our scope to be able to deal with. So we are obviously going to approach the county as well. Your meeting just happens to come before theirs, so. And I've been talking to Matt. I don't have confirmation that we're on the agenda there yet as well, but we have started the process to approach them. And I know you guys are usually pretty good at working together. If one of you says you'll do it, the other one usually hops in. So that's where we're at, I guess. I'll open it up to any questions or anything anyone might have. Wes has been very instrumental in working with us on this as well from the town's perspective and stuff. So he's fairly up to speed as to where we are on with things as well. So.
Perfect. Councillor Phillips?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lott. Just a quick question. So the ask you're asking for the town is $58,114.05. That's correct?
The math seems sound, yeah.
Okay, and you'll be asking for a matching
A match, yeah,
from the
yeah.
county. Okay, and the lights and the poles, are they already here?
The lights are on the ground here, anchor bolts and stuff for the poles are on the ground here. We didn't have, the poles are 80 feet high, so they've been bought and paid for. They're sitting at Seco Poles Yard and Storage.
Okay.
We've obviously missed our construction window for this year, but they've been bought and paid for, and they're sitting on the ground, so.
And that was gonna be my second question. If all of this comes to fruition, when would we see construction happen?
We would expect to start construction in early spring, hopefully have these things in and done through July. We don't wanna have a construction site during the, you know, May and June, when the high school and stuff is using the fields down there, just from a safety perspective on things. So I would expect we'd see shovels in the ground, you know, end of, last week of July. Once it'll come together fairly quickly, right? The boring stuff is, you know, there's no disturbance, there's no trenching, we just gotta excavate for the poles and get them up, and the tie-in for the power is right at the spray park. So, you know, it'll be easy. The one pole basically sits right beside the spray park, so they basically sit about the 35-yard line on each side of the field on the north and south sides, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would suspect by the end of July, start of August, we'll have lights on, so we'd have lights for the fall. I really wanted lights for this year, but it just wasn't in the cards, so.
No, for sure. Anybody else? No? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming in today,
You bet.
and we will have some discussion on this in a little bit.
Awesome. I will expect to hear from Wes or Dean or somebody to let us know where we're at.
Someone will.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks
you
very
so
much,
much.
guys. Take care.
Have a great day. Okay, so moving on in the agenda, adoption of previous minutes. Did the previous minutes look okay to everybody? Counselor Schipple?
Are these the minutes of the bylaw?
Would be the minutes from the regular council meeting, November 7th.
17.1 I have here.
Counselor Schipple, just your microphone, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. 17.1 talks about Councillor Caprero, and it should be Deputy Mayor, just as a typo in that.
Unfortunately, she's in as a counselor because it switches too often. So it'll always be, even for this meeting, she'll be down as counselor for the,
Because it further goes down, there's one later on in there where it calls her Deputy Mayor. Someplace where I read in this, so there was two different names for us, that's why I thought, to try to get continuity.
Oh, under adjournment.
So 18 calls her Deputy Mayor, so I'm just. Not an issue? Okay. And then, are the minutes included for the public hearing minutes? Are they in this set of minutes, or are they coming up?
they're in
Um,
the 3.1 was like a good page there.
Okay, the only comment I had there was just, between number 4 and number 5, maybe clarification on the actual land that was being rezoned. There was a discussion about the, what the actual land was being rezoned, and there was significant discussion about that, and that's not mentioned in the minutes. I'm just wondering if that should be mentioned in the minutes there. I'm just thinking if we're capturing what's in the minutes, that may have been missed, because so I'm thinking between, I wrote here between 4 and 5, clarification of actual land being rezoned. I was thinking,
Yep, no, I agree, under 8.1, it's been put in there.
so it's in there?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Schipple. I am now looking for a motion. Go ahead, Counselor Phillips.
Thank you. I will make a motion to adopt the council meeting minutes of November 7th, 2023 as presented.
Any discussion on the motion? We'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. Okay, so 5.1 delegation business, so does anyone have any comments or conversation on Rocky District Minor Football Association and their presentation today? Counselor Phillips?
Yes, I mean, it's unfortunate that it's, have a cost overrun of $116,000. At this point, I mean, with the lights here and the poles are already purchased, I'm thinking it's probably something that we should probably look at quite seriously, because it's committed. It's to the point where you can't, go backwards on the project, you can only go forwards, so I would be in favor of, allocating the $58,114.05. I'm not sure where that would come, if that would have to come out of reserves.
So just for clarification, so if you're approving the funds today, it's coming out of the 2023 budget, and we would have to come back to council on where we're gonna fund that from, probably unrestricted reserves, or council can elect to put it in the 2024 draft budget, and then it'd be in 2024. Council can see the whole impact in the budget.
I would be more in favor of putting it in the 2024 budget, just because the funds won't be needed until 2024.
I agree. I think that would be the best way to proceed with that. Counselor Hutchinson?
I just had a question with their CFIP grant. We had discussed at a different meeting about if the matching funds, if the CFIP grant didn't come to that amount, that it would come back to council. So they had asked for the 125, and we put in 62.5 each town and county. And if they only received 112.86, should that have not come back to council to have a discussion on or be aware of?
Deputy Mayor, I would have to go back and research what that motion was, because I'm actually not even wasn't aware till today they didn't receive the full funding, so, but I could review that.
Any other discussion? Counselor Ald?
I can't find in here what they had originally budgeted for concrete, which seems to be the biggest issue here. Like, it's just a blank, they didn't have anything put in here under the initial budget, so I'm a little confused as to why that wasn't, there was no figure put in there as a placeholder, let alone $100,000, so I would just like some clarification on that as to why they didn't budget for any foundation. Unless I'm missing something.
So what's the best way to find that out?
Yeah, so Deputy Mayor, I would think in their initial budget, that would have been under civil work,
Oh, okay.
because it's blank now under the current. And then they just have a specific line item for piles and foundation for 100,000.
Counselor Hutchinson?
I'm also kind of struggling with their initial budget with having GST included under their budget item, which I understand that you have to pay the GST, but in essence, they're going to be receiving the GST refund back. So some of that should come back underneath, either back up to revenue, because essentially it's going out one hand, but it's coming back into the other hand. But all in all, I appreciate the work that's gone into all of this. Again, we were on the Masters Games board when all of this was started. I just have a struggle with having large amounts, and you know, it's going to the football club, and it's just I need more consideration on it, just because we have a lot of user groups, a lot of other nonprofits that are always looking for funding. So I think we need to have some very careful consideration on putting $58,000 into what I would propose into our 2024 budget, to have 4 budget discussions coming up this month.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Councillor Phillips?
Yeah, I agree that this is not an ideal situation for sure. All the more reason why when we're doing projects like this, or like, you know, the pump track park and things like that, all the more reason why we would like to see the town as the managing partner or managing person doing these projects. Just so that, you know, cost overruns can be mitigated that way, and we can have a proper budget that, once we do approve, doesn't come back for large increases like this. Having said that, it's, to me, this has gone past the point of no return with items being purchased already. Delaying it even further than 2024 is just gonna make further cost increases for whenever this project would get on side. So I would be, you know, reluctantly in favor of doing this, but I would like to see projects in the future come under the town's umbrella so that we can make sure that we don't have cost overruns like this.
Councillor Schipple?
I agree with Councillor Phillips. One of the things I don't see a line here for is fundraising. Most of these groups come forward and they've went out and they've done a bit of sweat equity in terms of what they're doing, and this one really has nothing. They've been coming and picking all the low-lying fruit. So I do see that there's a line item missing here. Regardless of the size of the organization, I think that most of them come here with that line item, that they care. Now, the bad part is we're put behind the 8 ball on this, because all of a sudden we're expected to go forward, and as Councillor Phillips said, are we past the point of no return here, and let's get it done. I mean, I think we should go back to them, and I agree with what Councillor Hutchinson said. Where does the GST rebate come into this? Do we actually have to fund the amount we want? And is there any opportunity for them to go out and fundraise any amount of money towards this? We got a tight budget coming up here, and I think that for us just to keep rolling over is difficult. So my thought is that I think we should maybe delay this and go back and just get some clarity on Councillor Hutchinson's question, and at the same time ask them what they're prepared to do themselves to try to maybe raise some money so that it's not such a big hole in our budget. So.
I have a question, sorry, for you, Mr. Kraus. So when it comes back to us for the draft budget, at that time, we can discuss the dollar amount, and maybe we decide 58 is a little on the higher side. We could always offer to support them with less, like that amount isn't set in stone.
No, it'd be just put in the budget, in draft budget, then council can deliberate on the actual amount. But we would put in the request unless council tells us to put in a different amount.
Okay, Councillor Alt?
I'm gonna echo what Councillor Schipple said. Like, I was looking at that as well, the 25,000, they received that from the Masters Games, so that was just a bonus to the football club. It wasn't a fundraising, it was just a handout from the Masters Games. So I relate it back to the pump track and the spray park, all these organizations that did a lot of fundraising to get to the point where they have a facility. And I don't see that anywhere on here that's been done. And maybe it has, but it's not itemized down here at all. So I agree with Councillor Schipple that needs to be a discussion.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Yeah, and maybe that's part of it is getting their actual budget numbers, like we referred to the pump track, and having, you know, if Paterni's donating concrete at 50%, it's got to be reflected on their current budget items as X amount of dollars for that. Same with if they get the gravel, Crane Company as well, so we can actually see that there's contributions coming from, whether it's gift in kind, but details on it as opposed to just these blank numbers.
So I wonder if it's at all possible, maybe admin can reach out to minor football and just before we deliberate for or go over our draft budget, maybe we can try to get some more information from them, more concrete or detailed numbers here, and then that way we have that info going into budget. Does that make sense? Okay.
Timing is pretty quick for.
It is, so I don't know if that's possible, but if so, that would be, I think, fantastic. Counselor Phillips?
I agree with everything that's been said here as well. Having said that, I would like to see if we put the amount of $58,000 in as a placeholder in the budget, but have this information come to us so when we make the actual decision on budget, then we have all of this information with us so we can make a better decision. I think if we don't put it into the budget now, if we roll this into 2024, then it's gonna be something that's unbudgeted for, and now we're gonna have to fund it out of reserves. That's my concern if we don't put it in the budget.
Any other discussion? Counselor Hutchinson?
I totally agree, I understand that, but I still have a hard time with that amount of money. What other service do we take back, or we're gonna be taking out of budget to accommodate one group? And I'm just hesitant on that. So to put it in a motion, you want it to be put into the 2024 budget discussions for the 58 and change?
That's what I'm suggesting, that we put it in for the $58,114.05 as a placeholder in the 2024 budget, but ask admin to bring more detail back on this budget that they presented today. So when we're making the decision in December, that we can make a more informed decision.
Counselor Schippel?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I get it. So I hear the discussion, and I think, that, are we taking the incentive away if we approve it now because they know it'll be in our budget? So I think we should not make that motion. I think we need to have more clarity in what the numbers are. Do these numbers take in the discounts from Paderni's and the directional drilling people? And have they fundraised? And I think there's questions that we need to get answered before we put any number in there. Once it's in our budget, and even if it's a placeholder, hey, there's no need to do anything because it's coming, or likely coming. I love minor football and what they do in our community, but we have so many groups like them that if it's only, hey, we just got to go knock on the town and the county's door, and our money problem gets solved, I have a bit of an issue with that. I think there needs to be some sweat equity into the program somehow, even if it's a little amount. At least they've tried. At this case, if we put this motion forward and agree to it, the incentive is gone in terms of having to do anything in the interim. You know, if it's a summer project and they got 5 months to make some bucks, hey, go that route. That's my thinking.
Any other discussion? Someone like to make a motion? Mr. Kraus?
I'm just clarifying that Councillor Phillips did not put a motion on the table. Okay.
Sorry, that was just discussion, it wasn't a motion.
Would someone like to make a motion?
So for clarification.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Kraus.
No, it's fine. 'Cause for clarification for admin, so council's looking to find out more information. And what I'm hearing from council is, why didn't it come back to council when the CFAP grant wasn't the full amount? Because if you look at the initial budget, they had a shortfall right from the beginning. So we can answer that. Are they willing to do some fundraising? The GST. And does the current budget include discounts for concrete and so on?
Counselor Hutchinson?
Yeah, even to add a more detailed budget. I mean, anybody else that presents to us looking for finances has usually got a little bit more insight, details on it.
Thank you. Counselor Shipple.
I'll make the motion that we table this item until we get further information the administration will gather for us, and that we discuss it come budget time.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Counselor Phillips.
Yeah, the only discussion is I would still like to see it as a placeholder, but I'm fine with what the motion has been read.
Okay, so I will call that to a vote. Those in favor of the motion? And none opposed, so that is carried. Okay, so no old business today. New business, RFD bylaw 2023/15 land use bylaw amending bylaw. And we have Michael Fitzsimmons here today and Renee Hartling.
Thank you, thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. Sorry, just had something in my throat there. So we have an application before you to amend the land use bylaw, and that amendment would be to add a childcare facility as a discretionary use under highway commercial zoning. Currently, it's not a listed use at all under that zoning. The definition in the land use bylaw for childcare facility is a development that provides temporary care and supervision for 7 or more children. It includes a daycare center, kindergarten, or a nursery school. So the application would be affecting all parcels that are zoned for highway commercial. We did a review with our intermunicipal development plan and our municipal development plan, and there was no amendments would be required under those bylaws for this bylaw. There is a map attached there, and it shows all the parcels that are zoned for highway commercial. It's just indicated in pink. Under the land use bylaw, currently there is a section on discretionary uses. So if we did get a development permit application for a childcare facility, it would apply to section 11.8.4. And it gives the development authority kind of the powers to, so if we get an application for discretionary use, we could take into account the location of the site. We can put conditions about screening, hours of operation, other regulations, just to make sure the use isn't conflicting with other uses in the area, and then those other uses don't conflict with the childcare facility use. So with the bylaw, the only amendment we would be doing with the land use bylaw is just adding childcare facility as a discretionary use, and just based on the that it's no amendments are required to the other bylaws. We're making a recommendation to give first reading to this bylaw and also to schedule a public hearing for the sorry, I'm just getting a date there.
December 19th.
December 19th, exactly. Happy to take any questions if any members.
Looks like Counselor Shipple has something for you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If I could. So my question is, highway commercial and kids to me don't get along. There can be a conflict there. In this case, the lot in question makes sense. There's not a lot of traffic in front of it. I question if in fact it should not be spot rezoned versus changing or making an amendment to the bylaw. And so my question is, did you look at spot rezoning versus changing the whole bylaw? Because looking at where the red is at, those are a lot of high traffic areas, and I have a personal concern about kids and traffic. One gets loose and where do they go? So I would be more apt to think of spot rezoning for that specific site in question versus changing the overall bylaw to allow that. I think that's a dangerous place to go. So.
Through Deputy Mayor Councilor Shipple, so you're asking if it could be a specific section under highway commercial, kind of for that specific lot the applicants are applying for to do childcare facility?
That'd be correct. Spot rezoning is something that occurs.
Yep.
And I'm thinking in this case, this would be the ideal place for that notion of spot rezoning to occur. opening it up for the whole highway commercial area to have daycare centers. I think they each need to be looked at independently, because I can see where you may not want to have that, period, or even the opportunity to have that. So I just toss that out there.
Councillor Shipple, through to Deputy Mayor. Just wanted to comment that we did kind of do a review of other municipalities, and there were significant number of municipalities that had childcare center as a listed use in a highway commercial zoning. And so one of the things with section 11.8.4 is it allows us to kind of look at a specific parcel that's in a highway commercial zoning and apply, you know, some of the, do a separate review in terms of, you know, whether the impact would be appropriate, whether the design, character, and appearance of the development would be appropriate. We would look at things like access. So through the province with childcare facilities, a lot of facilities require a playground area. So, you know, we would want to see a site that has access to a secured play area. Highway commercial in some regards might be convenient for parents that are dropping off children, so it's easy access for drop-off. Again, it goes back to that 11.8.4 with discretionary uses and whether or not the site would be, you know, it would allow the municipality the opportunity to review it based on those considerations. And I just wanted to point that out.
I will get right to you, Councillor Shipple, but I will go to Councillor Ald first.
Well, actually, Councillor Shippold asked my question, and Renee's kind of answered it with the discretionary use. If we can, we don't have to allow them on all the highway lots. If it's a discretionary use, we can make those decisions in the future. But that was my concern, was that if we couldn't just make that one lot, like you said, spot zoned or whatever for that, that use. But I'm happy with those answers.
Councillor Shipple.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I'm going to go back to my original question. Is spot rezoning a possibility for that lot versus changing the bylaw?
Through Deputy Mayor to the councillor, spots rezoning normally isn't encouraged, like looking at other municipalities, just like, sorry, I'm just trying to think of like, just think of examples where a whole bunch of lots are zoned commercial and then there's one specific lot in the center gets changed to highway commercial or industrial to make a use. There is direct control districts. We do have some direct control districts in our land use bylaw, and they do have specific regulations in regards to those lots, but normally, you know, spot rezoning, try to avoid spot rezoning. And then, yeah, with 11.8.4, it does give us that power. So if we did get an application for a specific lot, we can take into account where the applicant wants to go, kind of what's the traffic in that area, what's the site, or what's the surrounding areas, and then we can make a decision whether we'd encourage that application or person could submit an application. Planning development could refuse that permit.
Thank you. Councillor Shipple.
Thank you for your reply. I just want to reword my question, okay? So my question is specifically about the lot in question. Is it possible to rezone it, spot rezone it, and not change the bylaw? So I'm not sure if I've phrased my question right or wrong. I'm trying to find out about that specific lot, and I've heard about every other lot, but I want that specific lot. So I'm just looking for clarification if I can. I'm sorry, Michael, but.
Through the Councillor Shipple, I'd have to look into it. It is possible you could make a subsection within highway commercial zoning and have childcare facility listed for the specific parcel. And there's some other parcels that, like, if there's parcels that are on an area that's, sorry, I'm just trying to think of there's some parcels in town that are on like a environmental overlay district, and there can be specific regulations for that one specific lot that's on a environmental overlay district. So if somebody's putting a building in, one example is they can't have a basement, an underground basement on those areas. That's one example, but it is possible you could add a subsection under highway commercial zoning.
Mr. Kraus?
To Deputy Mayor, to answer Council Triple directly, I guess, is yes, you can. We would have to rezone it to whatever district allows childcare facility in, so that would be spot zoning. It's a practice that we try to avoid administratively, but that is an option.
I have a question. If it's done with spot zoning, rezoning, does it still have to have the public hearing?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's two avenues here that council's looking at, is the spot zoning, which we still have to go through the public hearing to rezone it, I think, to probably commercial. Is that what it is?
Local commercial.
Local commercial. Or council can go down the path that's presented by administration, and really what that does is it opens up all of highway commercial for childcare facility, but now it's at the discretion of our development authority. If there's a future application, does it actually fit or work in the law that's being proposed? And they have the criteria that they have to look at to allow that.
So there's still some control there.
Yeah, and if they do refuse it, then the applicant can go through the SDAB process and so forth. So.
Renee?
He said what I was going to say, so
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Crows.
Counselor Phillips?
Yes, I like the fact that it would be a discretionary use as opposed to a permitted use, because then that allows us to site-specific, applications. My only concern with doing a spot rezoning is the reason why we have highway commercial and the reason why we have residential districts grouped together is so that we can have similar growth in that area. And I think if we start spot zoning, we may find that after 10 years of doing things like this, we may get choppy and we may lose our integrity of a zone. So I would be in favor of doing the discretionary use as opposed to spot zoning, just for that reason, so we can keep our zones together.
Counselor Hutchinson? It was on. There we go.
I feel confident that that section 11.8.4 under discretionary use does enable us to look at situations base to base or on case to case, and I'm in favor of the recommendation put in front of us. We've got to do a public hearing. We'll hear from the public, from the people, and so I'm in favor of the recommended alternative.
Okay. Any more discussion? Or would someone like to make a motion? Counselor Phillips?
Yes, I will make a motion that council give first reading to amending bylaw 2023/15, a bylaw to amend the Town of Rocky Mountain House Land Use Bylaw 2020/19 as presented, and that administration set the public hearing date for December 19th, 2023 at 1 p.m. in council chambers.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion further? No? So I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? Those opposed? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Okay, so 7.2, notice of motion. That was my notice of motion. So, Mr. Kraus, for these today, we're just basically going over them again, and it's coming back to a future council meeting? Is that the process?
So Deputy Mayor, well, there's two, so.
Yes.
For the first one of service provider, you've provided a notice of motion that you want to put that motion on the table. So that can be dealt with today.
Okay,
And then I can explain the next one.
sure. Thank you. Yeah, so I had given this notice of motion. I think we want to encourage development within our town. And so it would just be nice to talk to our utility providers and just ensure that everyone's on the same page and that things move smoothly, hopefully easy, and just encourage a good working relationship with our utility providers. So, does anyone have any questions or anything on that? Oh, Councillor Ald, sorry.
Hello there. I just want to say I'm in 100% support of this motion. Personally dealing with our utility providers in the last little while has definitely proved challenging. And our goal as council, our strategic plan, everything revolves around growing the town, encouraging business, and trying to get rid of red tape. And it definitely seems to be we can set all the groundwork we want, but if we don't have our providers on board and on the same page as us, it just bogs everything down. So I'm 100% in support of having them come to council to have that discussion.
Thank you. Any other discussion on that? So do we do another motion for this, or do we just vote on?
Yeah, so Deputy Mayor, so that is a notice of motion, so what you put forward as a notice of motion is the motion on the
Okay.
table. Yeah.
So we just, okay. So I will call that to a vote. Those in favor of this notice of motion? And none opposed, so that is carried. Thanks, guys. And next, we have a notice of motion from Councillor Schipult.
Yes, and that notice of motion is in regards to a house that a fire destroyed. And so the people whose house, I've contacted them, or they've contacted me. And so what they've got is, and I provided that, I'm not sure if it's anywhere in our package. I sent it here and I thought it might be part of our package. So what it was an email that came from their insurance company saying that they do not cover taxes. And I know that the municipal bylaw under section 349 indicates that taxes that have been imposed in respect to improvements are first charged. The insurance company, so I phoned my own insurance company and said, hey, my house burns down, what happens, do I get taxes back? And they said, no. So what this is if your house is worth $300,000, that's what you get back, $300,000, then you're responsible for still paying the taxes out of that $300,000. So although the Municipal Government Act sort of conflicts with what insurance companies do, and once it's paid, the taxes are paid. So I think knowing that in this case, if the tenant did not get, or the homeowner does not get compensated for the taxes, it comes directly out of their pocket, under the proceeds of the insurance claim. I would like to look at us re-looking at that situation, and their request is not for the tax component on the property itself. It's only on the improvement on the property for the period of time that the residence is not livable in. Understanding that the fire was not their responsibility, it came from next door. They're looking for a payment back, and I don't have the numbers with me, unfortunately. I sent them in that email. I believe it was $1,100, $1,100 or $1,200 is what they're looking for back. And I'd just like to revisit that and just say, appreciating the MGA says that they have to pay it. It still comes out of their pocket at the end of the day. It comes out of what the value of their house is. It's not a component that the insurance company pays. So, Mr. Krause, I don't know if you have. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't notice it wasn't on.
I'm so sorry. I did not have my red light on. So I'm not sure, Mr. Kraus, if you can respond to that.
Yeah. So Deputy Mayor, so the process here, so what the notice of motion is for council to reconsider a previous motion. So that's the first question to council. Are you willing to reconsider it? And then if council is, then the information can be brought forward for council for the tax relief. But what I would suggest to council, if you're gonna reconsider this and go down this path, because there's a legal obligation that your decision on tax relief has to be fair and equitable through the whole community, that you look at developing policy for tax relief. And I know there's a time essence here. If council's wanting to look at a tax relief policy, we probably wouldn't have one drafted by next week, but we could provide council with examples of other municipalities' tax relief policies. And then we could draft for what council is envisioning, because it goes beyond just, you know, fire, for example. There's other types of hazard or disruption or whatever for a homeowner. But then at least council, with a policy in place, you're protecting yourself from future liability, because now you have a policy and this is how you're gonna treat the whole community on tax relief consideration.
So for today, basically, we're just looking to see if we want to reconsider this, and if so,
Then a motion for us to bring information to the committee of the whole meeting next week on tax relief
okay.
policy.
And we would just discuss it further
Yes.
there,
at
okay.
committee of the whole.
Would that be where the information comes forward then that they forwarded me at that point in time, or I'm not sure where that would come into play?
Yeah, so then at the committee, Deputy Mayor, so at the committee of the whole meeting, council will look at the sample policies, give administration instruction of what they want in or out of policy. We would have that policy ready for the first meeting in December. And then once council passes that policy, then we would look at this request
I see.
and see if it meets policy, if that works for council.
Counselor Alt?
I think that avenue is probably the best way to go, then everybody's protected and we're not making a decision for this person and not this person, and it opens up for liability somebody gets mad and sues because we did it for them and not the other guys. So I would be willing to make a motion that we revisit this and bring information back to the committee of the whole meeting on creating a policy.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, so we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. Thank you. Okay. So, now we are on to RFD, appointment of returning officer and substitute returning officer for the 2024 bylaw election. Am I going to Mr. Kraus or Miss Breeze?
Sorry, Your Honor. Just had to get that last little bit in there.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, so we have a vacancy on council. And the first step is appointing a returning officer and substitute returning officers. So in front of you is recommendations, pretty much the same as we did last year. The only difference is, I added Tiffany, because she actually has attended the last by-election. So I've added her as a substitute returning officer, but otherwise it's pretty much the same.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Okay, looking for a motion. Counselor Hutchinson.
So be it resolved that council appoint Tracy Breeze as returning officer and Tiffany Robinson and Laura Button as substitute returning officer for the 2024 by-election.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll call it to a vote. Those in favor? None opposed, and that is carried. And then moving on from there, 7.5, RFD election day and advance vote for the 2024 by-election. Ms. Breeze.
Thank you, Your Honor. So looking at the deadline of March 6th to hold this election, we had Christmas in there, statutory holidays, so looking at the calendar and trying to go backwards with what we need to do for advertising requirements and all the rest of the legislative requirements, landed on February 26th as election date. That works for all the timelines that we have. I'm also recommending 2 advance votes, one at the beginning of February to allow for if somebody's working away for 2 weeks at a time, they have the chance and the opportunity to actually come in and vote at the first advance vote. So yes, my recommendation is to hold the by-election on the February 26th, the Monday.
Do we have any discussion on that? Looking for a motion then? Counselor Phillips.
Yes, there's no further discussion. I'd like to make a motion that council approve the 2024 by-election date of Monday, February 26, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., held at the Rocky Regional Recreation Center.
Counselor Chapeau.
Just have a question about the motion. Do we have to include if we're gonna have advanced polls, if they have to be in that motion, or how does that work?
So, to Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry, I totally did the wrong shift to Deputy Mayor. The council is, legislated to pick the election date. And then once the returning officer is been appointed, they pick the advanced voting dates. But I put them in here for your information, just in case you had some, any further information, or you had like an issue or something, because I want council to be aware of the advanced voting dates. So I've recommended those 2 dates based on past bylaws and feedback that we've been given through phone calls and stuff. But no, it does not have to be in this motion as per legislation.
Thank you. So a motion is on the table. Any discussion further? Doesn't look like it, so we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed. Thank you. Okay, 7.6, we have an RFD for temporary appointment of council members to committees. Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll take this one. So with Councillor Boniface's resignation, there's some vacancies on committees. He was on 3 committees, Anti-Racism Task Force, the Policing Committee, and the Rocky Museum Operations Board, and plus an alternate on the School Resource Officer Committee. So we're just looking for council to select fill-ins for these positions until the by-election is complete.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hutchinson?
Do you have the information there on what days of the week, like the policing committee? I didn't see anything as to when they're being held.
So just to quickly go through it, I guess the Anti-Racism Task Force, it hasn't met in a few years. The policing committee is on Mondays every second month, so the next one is December 11th, I believe. And the Rocky Museum Operations Board, typically they meet once a year, and I think they just had that meeting.
It's coming on the 27th of November.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought it would be, okay. And the SLRO Steering Committee, they haven't met since I've been here, so for 6 years for sure. But that is on the agenda with the school division for tomorrow's meeting.
Great. Okay, thank you. Councillor Phillips?
Yes, thank you. So I am currently the alternate on the policing committee, and I would be willing to move my name from alternate to be moved on to the policing committee if council desires.
Okay. Any discussion with that, Councillor Hutchinson?
I'm fine with that, but will there be a need to have an alternate appointed because of absences?
I would think if I move from an alternate onto the committee, then we would need to appoint an alternate as well. Mr. Kraus can clarify that, but I would think that's how that goes, yeah.
Councillor
Did you want it? Because I'll take it if you,
I'll take it too. It doesn't matter one way or the other.
I don't care.
You can have it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So the anti-racism task force, I mean, I would be happy to put my name in for that if that's okay with the rest of council. Okay. And we still need an alternate for that as well, Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else would like to take that position?
Okay, I'll take that one. If
Okay.
it's- Just to have a name down.
Okay,
I'm really enjoying this typing up on the screen.
okay. So the Rocky Museum Operations Board, anyone wanting to, oh, Counselor Alt.
I can throw my name on that one.
So the next meeting on that is November 27th, and I'm on that board as well. I will not be able to attend, so I'll leave that in your trustworthy hands for that meeting.
27th. I better make sure now that I open my.
It's 10 a.m. at the museum.
And for an alternate for that, I'm happy to put my name in there again, if that's okay. Yeah, okay.
I think so.
Okay, and so then we are looking for just an alternate for the School Resource Officer Steering Committee.
I
Councilor
can
Phillips.
throw my name in as an alternate for that one.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I think we have that all figured out. So now a motion for that. Counselor Schiffel.
I will make a motion that we appoint Deputy Mayor Capero as the appointed counselor to the Anti-Racism Task Force, and Counselor Hutchinson as the alternate to that, and for the Policing Committee that Counselor Phelps be appointed to that, and that I would be the alternate for that, and in the Rocky Museum Operations Board, it would be Counselor Ald as the appointed, and Deputy Mayor Capero as the alternate. And then for the School Resources Officer Steering Committee, that Counselor Phillips be the alternate for that.
Thank you. So since we just discussed it, I think we're okay to vote on that. So, or Counselor Alt, do you have something to? Okay. So those in favor of the motion and none opposed, so that is carried. Okay. So, correspondence for action. Do we want to take a break here, or are you guys okay to keep going? Okay, a break? Okay, let's take a 10-minute recess. Thank you. Okay, so we are back and we are moving on to correspondence for action, 8.1. So we have Councillor Boniface resignation letter from November 7th, 2023. Mr. Kraus, do you touch on this?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So under the MGA, I'm required to notify council at the first regular council meeting if we received a resignation from a councillor. So this is meeting the obligations of the MGA, as council's already well aware. So really, it's just a motion to accept the letter and thank him for his service to the community.
Thank you. It's a sad thing, actually, that Shane is no longer with us. I think he did really good work with us, and yeah, he was great to work with around this table. So, Councillor Phillips.
Yes, I just wanted to echo that sentiment. I just wanted to thank Councillor Boniface for the time that he put in. You know, he was a passionate councillor. He had a lot of good ideas and a lot of good thoughts, and I just wanted to thank him for the time, effort, and service that he put in, and he will be missed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with that being said, we are looking for a motion. Councillor Schippel.
I agree with what has been said about Councillor Boniface, and to that, I would make a motion that we accept Councillor Boniface's resignation, and if we can send him a thank you letter from the town for the efforts that he's put in and what he's done, it'd be great.
Thank you for your motion. Any discussion on the motion? So we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed. That is carried. Moving on to 8.2, we have 2024 Emerging Trends in Municipal Law. Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So administration is just looking to see if any of council wants to attend one of these sessions so we can register and make arrangements for council.
Okay, Councillor Phillips.
I wouldn't mind attending the February 8th one in Calgary. I always find that these are good information sessions that the lawyers put on, and always gives us something that we can bring back to our municipalities.
Thank you. Anybody else interested in attending? And so Councillor Phillips, sorry, you'd be attending in person rather than Zoom? Okay. Anybody else wanting? Oh, Councillor Schippel.
I would attend as well, as long as Councillor Phillips is driving. I would be A-okay with that in February.
Okay. Councillor Hutchinson?
I can't do the February 8th. So the Edmonton session is live streamed, so I would be interested in doing it that way instead of traveling in February.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so we are looking for a motion then. Councillor Auld.
I'll make a motion that Councillor Schippel and Councillor Phillips attend the February 8th Emerging Trend in Calgary, and that Councillor Hutchinson attend the live stream for the Edmonton on February 15th.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed. That is carried. Okay, 8.3, a request for council support for Rocky Mountain House Air Show in 2025. Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the Air Show Society is just looking for a letter of support from council to pursue and host an air show in 2025. They're not seeking any financial contribution, but just a letter of support for them to do that.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Councillor Phillips.
No, they're not looking for any financial support, but I definitely support this request for sure. You know, I've attended many Rocky Air shows, and they're always well attended, and a lot of people from outside the community, so I would definitely be in favor of us sending a letter of support.
I agree with you 100%. Anybody else? Okay, so looking for a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we direct admin to send a letter of support for the 2025 Rocky Air Show.
Thank you for your motion. Any discussion on that? I see none, so we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed. That is carried. Thank you. So now we are into correspondence for information. Is there anything between 9.1 and 9.4 that anyone wants to speak on? Councillor Schiffel.
I just have one question, and it's in regards to the Seniors Housing Council minutes, and a discussion about, and I'm not sure if this is the right place to bring it up. It was to do with a trust issue. It just said that the trust issue is being looked after at Westview Lodge, and I was just wondering if that was going to be a big dollar bill down the road or where that's at. It didn't really say, and I'm not sure if this is where. I'll leave it to you, Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchinson.
I don't have the dollar figures right now, but they have found quite a few things trying to repair something else and coming across other issues. There was issues with the roof leaking, and when they were up there putting heat tape in and doing some repairs, there was a number of the trusts that aren't supported by another. So I can certainly get that, forward that information for you to have a look at and see. And again, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I can supply that to you. We've actually started a capital reserve fund, which hadn't been in place a few years back. So, like I said, I can forward that to you.
Councillor Schiffel.
I'll make the motion. We receive all the correspondence for information.
Okay, do we need a motion for that, Mr. Kraus? Oh, okay. Okay, any discussion? None. Those in favor and none opposed. That is carried. Okay. So for correspondence for information, do we have a motion to, or is that what that motion was? That was, sorry. Okay, so now we are on to the action list, 10.1. If anyone has anything they want to bring up, or Mr. Kraus, if you want to speak
Thank
on
you,
that.
Deputy Mayor. Just, there's 3 items still outstanding on it. The Code of Conduct bylaws, so that's scheduled for review as per Council's request for the January Committee of the Whole meeting. The procedural bylaws the amendments are being presented to Council next week on the November 28th Committee of the Whole meeting. And the criminal record checks, actually all the IT issues are resolved. So once Council passes the fees and rates bylaw in December, that will be in place for January for a fee for criminal record checks.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or anything that they want to discuss on the action list? If not, I'm looking for a motion to accept as information. Councillor Alt.
I'll accept the action list as information presented.
So call that to a vote. Those in favor, none opposed, that is carried. Do we have any administrative inquiries today? Councillor Schiffel.
Deputy Mayor, if I could, please.
Sure.
I have 2 that are relevant to the same thing. Highway 752. A couple of the citizens came over, and what they're telling me is that the truck traffic, the large truck traffic, comes off the river bridge, and they turn and they go up what was 60th Street or 752, and that they're bypassing Rocky Mountain House. And they see what they've told me is there's a significant more large truck traffic now than ever. And so with that comes a speeding issue. So they're hoping that the town can maybe do something on 752 within the town limits for speeding. The second concern that they have, which is there's no sidewalk from Old Town to Creekside. And the side of the road is narrow there. And they said that they see kids walking on the highway, and it scares them with all this truck traffic on there. And especially in the mornings at school time, they say it's heavy, heavy traffic. And they want to know if in our long-term plan we have anything for a sidewalk or a walkway or anything planned on from Old Town to Creekside. They said it's not a long distance, but they don't know if something could be done about that because they're scared that the people that are walking on the side of the road there are putting their lives in a state of jeopardy with the heavy truck traffic. So somewhat the same issue, but different. And I'm just hoping that we can come up with a solution for those people, and the people see me live right on 752.
Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Speeding, definitely we can, I'll advise our peace officers that. I know actually they do patrol there for speeding. But we can up it there if it's getting more frequent. The sidewalk, I would have to check with engineering and ops where that fits into our master trail plan. I believe that there is a plan there, but I couldn't tell you which year at this time, but I'll advise council of that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other administrative inquiries? Okay, any notices of motion today? None, and so next we will move into closed session. Does council feel that they need another break heading into closed session, or just, okay, we're okay? So I am looking for a motion to move into closed session, please. Councilor Alt.
I'll make the motion that we move into closed session.
Okay, call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed. That is carried. Okay, so, oh. Thank you. Okay, so we are done with our closed session and we don't have any motions or resolutions coming out of it. So it is 3:11 PM and I will adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.